On a cold February evening, a young traveler named Mira K stepped into the Haldencrest Hotel, a place known to locals only for its fading neon lights and forgotten reputation. She carried a single black backpack, and although her expression was calm, there was something distant in her eyes, as if she had left more behind than just her hometown. The lobby security camera captured her first moments inside. She moves slowly, almost cautiously, glancing around the empty hall as if expecting someone to follow her. But no one enters after her. The receptionist later said she seemed polite, quiet, almost invisible. She checked in, nodded with a faint smile, and walked toward the elevator, her footsteps echoing through the empty corridor. That was the last time anyone remembers seeing Mira acting completely normal. What happened after she reached the 4th floor is where her story begins to fracture. After checking in, Mira took the elevator to the 4th floor. A floor that, according to hotel staff, had always felt different. When the elevator doors opened, the hallway appeared empty, silent. Too silent. The security camera at the far end shows her stepping out cautiously, her shoulders slightly tense, as if she sensed something before she even reached her room. She walks slowly down the long corridor, faded wallpaper peeling at the corners, fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead, shadows stretching unnaturally across the floor. At one point, she pauses and turns her head. There is nothing behind her, no footsteps, no movement. But she stands there for several seconds, listening, as if something whispered her name from far down the hall. Then she continues walking. When she reaches room 407, the camera picks up something subtle. A dark shape, almost like a shadow, sliding across the floor beneath her door. It's faint, distorted, and gone in less than a second. Mira doesn't seem to notice. She unlocks the door, steps inside, and the hallway becomes still again, as if whatever she sensed had followed her in. That night at exactly 12:03 a.m., the hallway camera outside room 407 activated. The footage shows Mira stepping out of her room slowly, cautiously. Her posture is tense, as if something inside the room unsettled her. She takes just a few steps into the hallway. Her head tilts slightly, like she's listening to something faint, something distant. For a moment, she stands completely still. The fluorescent lights above her flicker, not violently, but just enough to make the shadows around her shift. Her eyes follow the movement, even though the camera captures absolutely nothing there. Then Mira turns her head sharply, as if someone whispered behind her. But the hallway remains empty, silent, cold. She steps further down the corridor, hesitating, and then suddenly stops again. Her breathing becomes visible in the cold air, drifting through the hallway, even though the rest of the hotel maintains normal temperature. For nearly a full minute, she stands frozen, listening, watching, then without warning. She turns around and quickly walks back into room 407. The door shuts behind her, and the hallway becomes still again, almost too still, as if something was waiting just outside the camera's reach. At 2:17 p.m. the following day, Mira enters the hotel elevator. The security footage begins normally. She steps inside, presses a button, and waits. But after a few seconds, her behavior changes. She leans forward and peeks out into the hallway, as if someone is standing just outside the frame. There's nothing there. No movement, no shadow. Yet Mira steps back inside, presses 3 more buttons, then 4, then nearly the entire panel. The elevator doesn't move. She retreats into the corner, breathing quickly, her eyes locked on the hallway outside. Suddenly, she jumps forward and looks out again. This time more urgently, like she's reacting to something approaching. Her hands start moving rapidly, gesturing, as if communicating with someone the camera doesn't see. Then, the most disturbing moment. She steps out of the elevator, turns to her left, and begins making frantic motions, as if pushing something away or trying to explain something to an invisible figure. Her body language is desperate, terrified, and completely alone. After nearly a minute of this erratic behavior, she walks out of frame, and the elevator doors finally close on their own. The footage ends. This is the last clear recording of Mira K. alive. Later that same night, investigators discovered something unusual in the hotel's security archive. The footage recorded outside room 407 wasn't normal. At first glance, the hallway looks empty, silent, still untouched. But when the video is slowed down, there are subtle distortions, like the image is warping along invisible lines. The timestamp flickers for a split second, jumping backward, then forward, then freezing entirely. In one frame, the carpet pattern beneath the hallway lights blurs unnaturally, as if the camera captured movement it wasn't supposed to see. And then, the shadow appears. Not a person, not an object, just a dark shape gliding along the wall, stretching, bending, and dissolving before the frame resets. Technicians reviewed the footage again and again, searching for corruption, tampering, or hardware failure. But everything checked out. No errors. No glitches in the system. Nothing that should have caused these distortions. One technician noted, it looked less like a malfunction and more like the camera was trying to record something it couldn't fully perceive. Whatever moved in that hallway didn't belong there. And Mira had stepped into her room only minutes before. While investigators examined the corrupted footage, hotel staff began sharing stories of what they had heard the night Mira vanished. The night shift custodian, a man who had worked at the Haldencrest for over 12 years, reported something strange, something he had never experienced before. Around 12:40 a.m., just minutes after Mira returned to her room, he was cleaning the stairwell when he heard footsteps, light, hurried footsteps, coming from the 4th floor hallway. He assumed it was a guest, but when he approached the landing, the sound suddenly stopped. He stepped onto the 4th floor, looked down the long corridor, and saw nothing. No movement, no doors opening or closing, just silence. But as he walked forward, he picked up something else. A faint whisper. A woman's voice, calling out softly. So soft it was almost indistinguishable from the hum of the lights. He followed the sound toward room 407, but when he'd reached the door, the whispering ceased instantly, as if whatever was there had sensed him approaching. Later that night, a second staff member reported hearing the exact same thing. Whispers, footsteps, and the unmistakable feeling of someone standing just behind him in the otherwise empty hallway. The cameras recorded none of it, but the staff heard everything, and all of it seemed to circle around one place. Room 407. When investigators entered Mira's room the next morning, the first thing they noticed was the silence. A heavy, unmoving quiet that felt unnatural. Even for an empty hotel room, nothing appeared disturbed. Her backpack lay neatly on the desk. Her jacket was folded at the foot of the bed. The bathroom light was still on. But on the desk, they found something that changed the entire direction of the investigation. A small black notebook, opened to the last page she had written. The handwriting was uneven, shaky, rushed, almost clawed into the paper as if she was writing while terrified. It read, "Someone is in the hallway. They stopped outside my door. They don't knock. They don't breathe. They don't blink." Investigators paused, studying the words. It felt less like notes and more like warnings. Below the final line, written even more aggressively, were the words, "Room 407 is not my room." No one could explain what she meant. She had checked into the room willingly. She had used the key. She had walked inside without hesitation. So why did she write that? And who or what did she think was waiting for her in the hallway? This was no longer just a disappearance. It was the beginning of a descent into something far darker than anyone expected. 3 days after Mira disappeared, detectives reviewing the hallway footage found something that made even the most experienced officers uneasy. At 2:19 a.m., a camera facing the maintenance elevator caught a disturbance. A faint, shifting blur moving across the far wall of the corridor. At first, it looked like a smudge on the lens, something harmless, something technical. But when the footage was enhanced and slowed down, the shape became clearer. A shadow, human-like in form, yet wrong in every way. Its proportions were stretched, as if the figure were unnaturally tall. The head tilted at an impossible angle, and the torso seemed to shift independently, like it wasn't fully connected to the rest of its body. Even stranger, the direction of the shadow didn't match any of the hallway lights. No person, no object, nothing in that corridor could have cast it. The technicians ran diagnostics. No overlapping videos, no corrupted frames, no exposure anomalies. The shadow shouldn't exist, yet frame by frame it drifts across the wall, moving smoothly, deliberately, almost intelligently. And then it snaps out of view in a single distorted jump, leaving behind only empty hallway. The footage froze there, an empty space where something had clearly been. Investigators would later say that whatever the camera captured felt less like a person and more like something the camera wasn't built to record. As investigators dug deeper into Mira's disappearance, their search led them into the Haldencrest's past. A past that had been quietly buried under decades of silence. Old police reports revealed something disturbing. Mira wasn't the first person to vanish on the 4th floor. In 1983, a traveling salesman named Gregory Shaw was last seen walking toward room 407. He was never found. In 1989, a foreign exchange student checked into that same room. His belongings remained untouched, but he was gone by morning. In 1997, a local journalist investigating the hotel's ownership disappeared after interviewing staff on the 4th floor. In 2004, a couple staying on that floor left behind a room in perfect condition, 2 suitcases, neatly packed clothes, and no sign they had ever left the building. And finally, in 2008, a woman named Lydia Strauss was recorded entering the 4th floor corridor, only for the cameras to freeze for 6 full seconds. When the footage resumed, she was gone. Every case unsolved, every investigation inconclusive. And all of them had one thing in common: the 4th floor, room 407. When detectives compared the files side by side, a chilling pattern emerged. Each disappearance had occurred in nearly the same location, and always under circumstances involving electrical failures, distorted video recordings, or unexplained shadows. Whatever Mira encountered that night was not new. It was something the hotel had been hiding for decades. The deeper detectives dug into the Haldencrest Hotel, the more disturbing the evidence became. One investigator, Detective Harris, assembled a separate case folder, a thick, weathered file labeled with a single number: 407. Inside were decades of reports, photographs, maintenance logs, and statements from former staff members who had worked at the hotel long before Mira ever arrived. Each page revealed another piece of the same pattern: electrical failures on the 4th floor, unexplained cold spots, audio distortions picked up on security microphones, and guests reporting the same thing: a presence in the hallway. One report from 1997 described a journalist who claimed he felt someone walking directly behind him despite being alone. Another file from 2004 documented a maintenance worker who refused to service the 4th floor after repeatedly hearing knocks that came from both sides of the hallway at once. But the most unsettling entry was a handwritten statement from a former receptionist. It read, "Room 407 should have been sealed years ago. Everyone who stays there hears the same thing: whispers through the vent, footsteps at the door, and someone pacing inside, even when the room is empty." Detectives closed the folder and looked at each other in silence. Whatever happened to Mira was not a coincidence. She had walked into the center of a mystery that had been quietly growing for over 40 years, and the one place every line of evidence pointed to was the same room over and over again: 407. While reviewing the building's backup archive, detectives uncovered one final piece of footage. A recording that had gone unnoticed during the initial investigation. It was captured by a malfunctioning camera near the stairwell at 2:19 p.m., just moments after the elevator incident. The footage is grainy, distorted, but Mira is visible. She appears at the far end of the hallway, small, distant, almost swallowed by the shadows. Her posture is stiff, her movements unnatural. As she steps forward, her shadow falls behind her, but not in sync. It lags several frames behind, as if delayed by something the camera couldn't interpret. At one point, her shadow seems to turn its head before she does. Then Mira pauses, slowly looks over her shoulder, and takes a hesitant step into the stairwell. The moment she crosses the threshold, the footage fractures. A ripple tears through the frame, warping the walls and bending the light as if something pulled at the very edges of the image. When the distortion clears, the hallway is empty. Mira is gone. No exit, no door, no physical trace. And there is no footage of her ever leaving the building. The stairwell camera continued recording for another 6 hours. Nothing else appeared. Nothing else moved. That single fractured moment remains the last confirmed sighting of Mira K. After reviewing every piece of evidence, the corrupted footage, the unexplained shadows, the missing persons, and the chilling history of Room 407, investigators were left with only theories. None of them offered true answers, but each one brought its own disturbing possibility. 1. The psychological theory. Some experts suggested that Mira suffered a sudden psychotic break, a rare, rapid-onset episode triggered by stress or exhaustion. But her medical records showed no history of mental illness, and even the most severe episodes cannot explain the glitches, the shadows, or the missing frames in the footage. 2. The criminal theory. Others believed she was abducted, taken by someone who knew the building well and avoided every camera. But no fingerprints were found, no signs of forced entry, no witness reports, and no one ever leaves a hotel without appearing on a single exit camera. 3. The time distortion theory. A more fringe explanation came from video analysis specialists. They noted that multiple cameras on the 4th floor recorded time differently. Seconds missing, minutes overlapping, timestamps drifting out of sync, as if time itself on that floor was slipping, stretching, and fracturing in patterns no one could scientifically explain. 4. The paranormal theory. And then there were the others, the ones who believed Room 407 was never just a room. They pointed to the decades of disappearances, the identical reports of footsteps, whispers, shadows, all concentrated in the same place. According to them, Mira didn't meet a person that night. She met something else. None of these theories fit perfectly, but together they painted a chilling picture. A place where reality bends, where people vanish without trace, and where the line between the living and the unseen is dangerously thin. Mira's case didn't end the mystery. It deepened it. Despite weeks of searching, despite analyzing every second of footage and interviewing every member of the hotel staff, investigators found nothing. No body, no sign of struggle, no trace of Mira K. Not even a single piece of physical evidence that could explain what happened after she stepped into the stairwell. The hotel remained open, the 4th floor returned to silence, and Room 407 was cleaned, inspected, and rented out again, as if nothing had ever occurred. But the truth was harder to ignore. The corrupted timestamps, the impossible shadow, the missing frames, the decades of disappearances, and the words Mira left behind in her notebook. Room 407 is not my room. Her family still waits for answers. Her belongings remain boxed and untouched, and each year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, investigators quietly revisit the case, searching for something they may have missed. They always come back to the same hallway, the same recordings, the same room, and each time the same conclusion is reached. Whatever happened to Mira did not follow human rules. It did not follow logic or time or the laws that govern the world we understand. It simply happened, and then vanished, just like she did. Today, Room 407 looks ordinary. A bed, a desk, a window overlooking the empty street below. But late at night, when the lights flicker and the hallway grows cold, some guests report hearing footsteps outside their door. Soft, hesitant footsteps, as if someone is still wandering the 4th floor looking for a room that never truly belonged to her. The case remains open. The mystery remains unsolved. And Mira K has never been found.